Ever find yourself wondering how all those financial institutions manage to keep up with the just dizzying number of rules out there?
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, why it even touches your life.
That's really the core of what we're diving into today. It's regulatory compliance, specifically in the financial crime landscape.
Okay.
Our source, FinCrime Intelligence, puts it pretty simply. It's basically organizations following laws, regulations, and established industry practices.
Right.
Think of them as the essential guardrails for the financial world.
Guardrails. Okay. That makes sense. It sounds like a lot for big companies to handle, definitely. But what's the real impact on, someone like you or me?
Well, it goes way beyond just headaches for the institutions themselves. Regulatory compliance is really what underpins the stability and, crucially, the trustworthiness of the entire financial system.
Okay.
When these rules are actually followed, it's a vital defense against really serious threats that affect everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Things like money laundering, where illegal cash tries to look clean,
Yeah.
and terrorist financing, too. It's sort of like making sure the financial waters aren't poisoned, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. So, for this deep dive, we've been looking closely at excerpts from Regulatory Compliance, FinCrime Intelligence. What exactly are we hoping to unpack for you today?
Our mission really is to cut through the jargon, cut through the complexity,
Mm-hmm.
and give you a clear understanding of what financial regulatory compliance is really about and why it's so vital, particularly now. We want to hit the key aspects without getting totally lost in the technical weeds.
Gotcha. So, the first thing that really jumped out at me reading this was compliance isn't just about avoiding getting fined, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about something much bigger than just, dodging penalties.
Precisely. I mean, yes, penalties are a real consequence of not complying.
Hmm.
But the fundamental importance, it lies in preserving the stability, the transparency, and the overall integrity of our financial systems. Our source really emphasizes this.
Okay.
It's about proactively building a strong, ethical financial environment, not just reacting.
And what specific dangers does this help us, well, steer clear of? What kind of trouble are we talking about?
The force points to several really critical illicit activities that strong compliance helps prevent.
Right.
Like we mentioned, money laundering.
Yeah.
Also, market manipulation, which undermines fair trading and can really hurt investors.
Right.
Sanctions evasion, where people try to get around international restrictions. And the really serious issue of terrorist financing.
Okay, so it's truly about creating a financial world we can actually have some confidence in. You can see why that matters to everyone.
Exactly.
The source also mentions how a company's reputation is tied into this. How does compliance play a role there?
Oh, it's absolutely key to building and maintaining trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, when financial firms demonstrate they're serious about following the rules, it gives confidence
Mm-hmm.
to their customers, sure, but also to the regulators watching them and, all the other stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
A big compliance failure, that can severely damage a company's image. It can lead to lost business, much closer scrutiny. It's a big deal.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are the main areas then that financial regulatory compliance actually focuses on? Sounds like a pretty wide-ranging topic.
It is broad, definitely. But when we narrow it down to financial crime, our source highlights several core areas. Let's maybe start with anti-money laundering, or AML.
AML.
Yeah. And a big part of AML is something called customer due diligence, or CDD.
CDD, right. Is that just about like checking someone's ID, making sure they are who they say they are?
It's a bit more involved than just that. It's really about verifying who a customer is, yes, but also assessing the potential level of risk they might pose.
Ah, okay. Risk.
Exactly. AML also includes transaction monitoring. You can think of that like a security system, watching all the financial activity for anything unusual, any red flags,
Uh-huh.
and suspicious activity reporting, SARS. That's where institutions are actually required to report transactions that look potentially illegal to the authorities.
That makes sense. Very important. What's the next critical area then?
Next up, let's talk sanctions compliance. This involves checking individuals, checking organizations against specific lists. These lists come from bodies like OFAC in the US, the UN, the EU, the UK's OFSI.
So, like, do not do business with lists.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine them just like
Ah.
that. The whole point is to prevent any financial dealings, any services going to sanctioned entities or individuals.
That sounds vital for global security for sure. What about fraud? protecting against fraud, something that could hit individuals directly.
Fraud prevention is definitely another essential area. It concentrates on spotting and dealing with both internal fraud employees and external fraud risks.
Okay.
This means setting up various controls like alerts for strange account activity, maybe unusual login attempts, stuff like that, and having really clear steps for what to do when fraud is suspected. Incident management, basically.
And we often hear the term KYC. Where does that fit into all this? Is it separate?
Good question. KYC, know your customer, is actually very closely linked to CDD, often part of the whole AML
Oh,
process.
okay.
It's about confirming customer identities, yes, but also really understanding their risk profiles,
Hmm.
maybe based on where they live or the kind of business they run, and critically, keeping their information accurate and up to date over time.
Got it. And, well, in today's digital world, data feels like everything. How does keeping our personal data safe play into regulatory compliance?
Data privacy and protection. It's become hugely critical.
I bet.
Yeah, this involves making sure that personal data is handled securely, responsibly, and in line with specific laws. You hear about GDPR in Europe,
Mm.
CCPA in California,
Right.
and similar laws popping up all over. This directly affects you, affects everyone, because it's about safeguarding your financial information from misuse or theft.
So who are the actual entities making and enforcing all these rules? Who are the watchdogs making sure everyone plays by them?
Well, there are quite a number of regulatory bodies and standards involved. It really depends on the country and the specific part of the financial industry we're talking about. Our source highlights some key players, though. In the UK, you've got the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA.
Mm-hmm.
In the US, there's the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and also the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN.
Okay, different roles there.
Yeah. Then the European Banking Authority, EBA, operates across the EU. And the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, is a big one in Asia.
That's quite a few different organizations already. And there's another key one mentioned, right? An international one.
Yes, absolutely. The Financial Action Task Force, or FATF.
FATF.
This is a really influential international organization. It sets the global standards, kind of the baseline expectations for fighting money laundering and terrorist financing.
Right.
So these bodies, collectively, they establish the expectations, they issue detailed guidance, and importantly, they have the authority to enforce compliance on banks, investment firms, and other regulated entities.
Okay, so we know who's setting the rules. But how does a bank or, any financial institution actually put all of this into action? What does a real-world compliance program actually look like on the inside?
Right. So a robust compliance program, as our source outlines it, it has several vital components.
Okay.
First, you absolutely need policies and procedures. These are the clear internal rule books, the guidelines that reflect not just the laws, but also the company's own tolerance for their risk appetite.
So it's not just about blindly following the law word for word, but also thinking strategically about the specific risks that company faces.
Exactly. It has to be tailored. Then there's training and awareness. This is huge.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's essential that employees, at all levels really, understand their responsibilities under these regulations and, crucially, know how to spot potential warning signs, those red flags we mentioned. And it's not a one-off thing. It's ongoing education.
That makes perfect sense. You can have all the rules written down, but if the people on the ground, the front line, don't know them or understand why they matter.
Precisely. It falls apart. What else is crucial? Monitoring and testing.
Okay.
This involves continuously checking if the compliance measures they've put in place are actually working effectively. Are the controls doing what they're supposed to do? Think of it like a regular health check for their compliance system.
Right, like kicking the tires. And what happens if, during that monitoring or just in daily business, a potential problem is identified?
That's where escalation and reporting come in. There need to be really clear, established steps for how to respond when potential violations are found. This includes knowing when and how to report these issues up the chain internally, and importantly, when to report them to the appropriate regulatory bodies outside the firm.
So there's a system of accountability built right in. And the final piece you mentioned.
The final piece is often independent oversight.
Yeah.
Many institutions have a dedicated compliance officer, or even a whole team. And the key here is that this team operates separately from the day-to-day business operations. This allows them to provide an objective view and ensure accountability in compliance matters without conflicts of interest.
It really sounds like a constant balancing act, a
Yeah.
lot to manage. Our source mentions that keeping up with all this presents some pretty significant ongoing challenges. What are some of the main hurdles firms are grappling with right now?
Oh, compliance is definitely a moving target. It's never static.
Yeah.
Firms constantly have to deal with frequent updates to regulations.
Hmm?
And not just updates, but updates coming from different countries, which can create a real logistical nightmare if you operate internationally.
I can only imagine.
Then there's the increasing complexity of financial products and services themselves, and the different ways they're offered now online, through apps. It all adds layers.
And I'm sure the people trying to commit financial crimes aren't just standing still either, right? They're adapting too.
That's exactly right. The methods used for financial crime are constantly evolving, becoming more sophisticated. So firms constantly need to try and stay ahead, or at least keep pace with these new techniques.
Hmm.
There's also this inherent tension, this challenge of embracing innovation.
Hmm.
Think about things like smooth digital onboarding for customers or the whole world of crypto assets, while still maintaining really strong security and compliance controls. That's a tough balance.
It must be really difficult to juggle all of that effectively. Are there other, maybe more practical limitations they face?
Oh, definitely. Resource limitations are a big one. Having enough skilled people, enough budget,
Yeah.
and the significant costs associated with implementing and then maintaining these comprehensive compliance programs, it's not cheap.
Hmm.
And failing to address these challenges, as our source points out pretty starkly, can lead to severe legal penalties, huge fines, and really significant damage to their public image, their reputation.
So, with all these evolving challenges, all this complexity,
Yeah.
how are financial institutions actually managing? Is technology playing a big role here? Is it helping?
Absolutely. Technology is becoming increasingly indispensable in modern compliance. It really has to.
Okay.
Our source specifically mentions RegTech.
RegTech, right, regulatory technology.
Exactly. And these are basically specific tech tools designed purely to help firms manage their compliance obligations more efficiently and hopefully more effectively.
RegTech. That really does sound like a potential game changer in this space. Can you give us some concrete examples? Like, how is this tech actually being used on the ground?
Sure. There are some really interesting applications. We're seeing, for instance, AI-powered systems.
Okay.
These can analyze just massive amounts of transaction data, far more than humans could sift through, to automatically flag anything that looks suspicious.
Wow.
And they can also instantly check names against.
That sounds like it could save a ton of manual work, a lot of hours. What else can RegTech do?
Well, digital identity verification, ID&V, and onboarding solutions are getting much more sophisticated.
How so?
They make it easier, faster, and more secure to confirm the identity of new customers remotely without them having to physically come into a branch, for example.
Right.
And data analytics tools are becoming really powerful. They allow firms to get a much better, deeper understanding of their specific risks by analyzing patterns in their own data and even running simulations to test different what-if scenarios.
So the goal is really about making compliance, I guess, more efficient, less painful, and hopefully much more accurate and effective.
Exactly. That's the idea. By utilizing these technologies, these RegTech solutions, firms can reduce the heavy burden of manual tasks, they can improve the accuracy of their compliance processes, and ultimately they can take a much more proactive stance towards identifying and mitigating risks before they become major problems.
Okay, fantastic. Let's try and wrap things up then. If you had to boil it down, what are the key insights, the main takeaways we should leave our listeners with from this deep dive into financial regulatory compliance?
I think the core message, really, is that regulatory compliance is absolutely fundamental. It's essential for having a secure financial system, a trustworthy one, and that impacts absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
It's really not just some bureaucratic exercise for big companies. It's a critical defense against serious criminal activities, money laundering, fraud, terrorist financing, and it's also a key protector of our sensitive personal data.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly a dynamic and complex area constantly changing, and as we've discussed, technology, RegTech, is playing an ever-increasing, really vital role in helping firms navigate it effectively.
So we really hope this discussion has given you a clearer perspective on this, often unseen, maybe sometimes unappreciated, but incredibly important aspect of our financial world.
Indeed. And maybe just a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
Considering the sheer speed of technological change we're seeing and the increasing interconnectedness, the globalization of finance,
Yeah.
it prompts a fascinating question, doesn't it?
Which is?
How might the challenges and also the solutions, particularly the tech solutions, in regulatory compliance continue to evolve in the years ahead?
Yeah.
and maybe closer to home.
Yeah.
What part do you, as someone who participates in the financial system every single day, indirectly play in upholding these essential standards? Something to think about.